Hello, and welcome to episode 122 of Dots, Lines, and Destinations, coming to you from Mellow. This is Seth hosting today, and Mellow is a coffee shop slash restaurant slash who knows whatever hipsterish kind of thing in a random shopping mall in Bangkok, Thailand. And I'm sitting across the table from good friend and travel connoisseur and all sorts of other good things. I clearly forgot to ask him how I want to be introduced at the beginning of the show. Justin Lancy.
Hello.
Hi, Justin. How's it going?
Now that you're here, it's all great.
That could have ended much differently.
No. I'm so glad that you could make it, and it's nice to be with you today.
Yeah, so I'm actually in Thailand, passing through on my way between Dubai and Singapore. Stopped over to see Justin for a little bit, and going to catch up with him. By way of background, who are you and why are you on the show?
Well, that's a fantastic question. I feel like who I am is I'm a writer and technologist, and so strangely enough, I've lived in Asia for 3.5 years now. But before that, I lived in New York. And the strange part is that while I was living in New York, I never met you when we were in the same town.
Yeah.
We kind of talked online, but never made the connection. So the reason we're together is we became friends the day I moved to Asia, to my new home in Asia. As it happened, you were visiting. You and your wife were visiting Luang Prabang, Laos, which is where where I moved. My wife had a job there, and so the day we arrived, we kind of saw that we were in the same place on Twitter, and you said you wanted to meet up. Yeah. So,
and to be clear, it was very safe, public place, lots of people around. It could have bailed if we had to, but
it was, and when you didn't, and when we didn't, I think
likewise.
we realized that we actually really liked each other in person as well as online. So, I don't know. One of the things I love about travel is these unexpected meetings and kind of the people that kind of enter your path. And so the idea that Seth Miller would be sitting at an outdoor cafe, raising a glass of wine, saying "Welcome to Laos" on my first day there was not something I could have predicted. But it's what I love about travel.
Yeah, absolutely. That was a very fun day, very fun evening, and it's gotten better since. I like to think. But all right. So technologist and author. Writer.
Well, I'm a writer. I hope to be an author. I'm working on a couple of book projects right now, but I don't have a contract, and certainly nothing published. So I can't
hold off
claim
on
that.
Then.
But I'm a freelance writer primarily. When I lived in New York, I had a specialty practice where I would help creative people automate their own technology. So I think now people are very comfortable about automating and having their computers do work for them. But when I started 10 years ago, that was a very new concept. So I kind of fell into a practice of technology in New York where I would help really smart creative people, researchers, academics, film and TV people use their computers to be more creative. And I still do some of that work, but I think at heart I've always been a writer, and so when we moved over here, I made the definitive leap towards doing that.
Nice. Yeah, that's speaking of parallels and strange ways that we overlap. I was a technology guy too, and still do a little bit of it, but write a lot more.
Yeah. Well, if you're a writer, and if any of you listening are kind of writers or photographers, it's really good to have a lucrative or semi-lucrative.
Absolutely. Something else to pay the bills while you're waiting to make it big.
Because it lets you, I think it lets you take the projects that you care about. And in my case, it enabled me to move to Asia and start to follow stories that I cared about.
Yeah. Awesome. Well, getting into the sort of specifics of a Dots, Lines, and Destinations episode, we're going to focus heavily on some of your travels and life recently. Our dot will be Helsinki, Finland, because as you know, that's intimately tied to Southeast Asia travel. Mm-hmm. The line will be Bangkok to Helsinki, or Helsinki to Bangkok, depending on which way we go about it. And the destination, shockingly, will be Thailand. Let's jump in on the dot. Helsinki. We were talking a little bit before the show about how the airport sort of serves as a great hub for Finnair, but also a good hub for the region. And I think there's some interesting opportunities there. I know you mentioned the lounge situation and how big a fan you are of that. So maybe we'll start there and then expand out to the hub area.
Helsinki, well, for those of you who haven't had the pleasure of flying Finnair, and it was a pleasure. It was my first time flying them this time. I needed to report on a story in Europe, and I found a very inexpensive last-minute fare from Bangkok. And even better, on a lot of Finnair's longer, kind of long-haul flights, they're now bringing in their A350 fleet, which is beautiful. So I took it as a sign that I should check it out. And like many airlines now, I think Finnair is interested in getting people to come to Helsinki and explore it. You not only use it as a hub, but take some time and do a stopover.
Now, did you guys say, do they do like a stopover program?
They
with
do.
A free stopover like
They do.
Iceland Air and everybody else?
They
And
do.
A few other people.
And it's new. I asked them about it.
Okay.
I talked to, because I'm a writer, I never pass up an opportunity to interview
Sure.
people, right? So I talked to their media people, and they said that that's a relatively new program. But you can stop for 5 days, generally for no additional charge. And they've just begun to make it easier to do it online. You used to have to call a phone number to arrange the stopover, but you can now. There's an online calculator that tells you if you want to do a 3-day stopover, the fare remains consistent, and
Okay.
lets you
Let's sort of map out which days have this fare you still want. Kind of
correct.
thing. Cool.
Correct. So yeah, I took that as a sign, and Helsinki was very interesting to me because not only is the airport a known hub, a good regional hub that maybe isn't on everybody's radar right away. It's not their first thought when kind of transferring through Europe. But as a city, it's a great hub because between the flights, trains, and actually ferry service, it opens up a lot of Scandinavia and kind of Northern Europe if you're interested in exploring that.
Sure. And I think when I went through there, I flew Finnair, JFK, Helsinki, and then immediately connected on to, I want to say Tallinn. Is that possible?
It's possible.
Close.
Tallinn's very close.
Yeah, so I think that's the one I did. I sort of went up and down
Yeah.
through the three countries, and I forget which order I went and did them in. But
There's now very fast ferry service between Helsinki and Tallinn, and
Okay.
that's I think now it's about don't quote me on this. When I looked it up, it looked to be about a 90-minute ferry ride.
That's
It was
quick.
very inexpensive, 20 or 30 euro if you pick the right time. So if anybody says where's Tallinn, that's in Estonia, and it's let's
actually be educational, informative,
we could do that.
details.
Okay. Tallinn, I haven't been there, but I almost went there because it's a beautiful kind of it's a beautiful European city that hasn't been totally.
Sure. Yeah, I remember enjoying it. I was jet lagged and drunk and only there for about 12 hours, but in that context, I think it was amazing.
Yeah. Estonia is one of the more kind of digitally wired and progressive countries in the world, let alone Europe. And so it's an interesting mix of the very modern and kind of traditional Europe.
Yeah.
So I definitely hope to go back there.
So instead of doing that, where did you go then?
Well, here's another option for all you Helsinki explorers. One of the things you may discover, as I did, is that hotel accommodations in Scandinavia are cripplingly expensive.
Yes.
And so I had stayed on points for a couple nights at a Hilton and decided, well, maybe I'll look for Airbnbs, but I wasn't seeing anything I liked, and I didn't want to pay $350 per night US for just kind of a normal room. So I wondered if there was another option, and I discovered there was. If you depart from Helsinki on a very specific cruise line called the St. Peter Cruises, I'm assuming when I say you, I mean I'm presuming it's a mostly American audience.
Yes.
So, most people, certainly Americans, can travel to Russia without a visa for up to 72 hours. And
that's big considering the both expensive and the application process for a Russian visa for Americans is quite onerous.
Correct. And so when I learned that, and then I saw also that the cost of the cruise was actually about €100 for 2 nights of a cabin on board, plus a trip to Russia, to St. Petersburg is the destination. I said, well, how would I ever pass up an opportunity to go to St. Petersburg for the day, save a little
So
money?
it's like you leave in the evening, sail overnight, spend the day, sail overnight back, and then come home?
Correct.
Or whatever, back to Helsinki?
Yes.
So, 2 nights to sleep at a relatively cheap rate.
Right. And an adventure. And you really can't put a price on ready access to Russian lounge singers in the bar of a Russian cruise ship. That I think.
Yeah. Worth the price of admission and then some.
At least.
Yeah.
I felt I got good value.
All right. Back to the airport real quick. One of the sort of infamous bits of the Helsinki airport, the new Finnair lounges.
Yes.
Are supposed to be spectacular, including sauna.
That's correct. So Finland is known for kind of sauna culture, and that extends even into the airport. The Finnair offers 2 lounges, and I think they've both been remodeled recently. There's one that's in the Shenzhen area, so kind of people that are traveling within kind of the Europe-Shenzhen area. Then there's also the non-Shenzhen lounge, which I think is the newer and kind of more elaborate lounge. And in that lounge is a sauna, and it's a co-ed sauna. So,
all right.
Now, in Finland, generally saunas, you're naked. That's just how it goes, and that can be co-ed. So that's for Americans or places that are maybe culturally not as accustomed to that can be a bit of a shock. Finnair, asks that you wear a towel, kind of in recognition that not everybody is comfortable with co-ed nudity. So when I felt like I had to check it out,
absolutely.
And so
it's a nice refreshing before you get on a plane. Also,
it really was, and I was surprised how refreshing it was. So I went into the sauna and sat in silence next to several Japanese guys who. There's also kind of a strong sauna culture and kind of a hot spring culture in Japan.
Absolutely.
So they seem to really kind of be into it, and so it was a nice time.
Nice. And one of the interesting things about Finnair just in general in the Helsinki hub is because it's so far north and because the Earth is round-ish, it's actually a great connecting point to a lot of East Asia, Far East, and South Asia destinations. So connect total travel times to Japan, to Shanghai, Beijing.
Mm-hmm.
Seoul,
they also have a Hong Kong route, which is
new,
very competitive out of that hub.
Bangkok. So it's good timings on a lot of those routes, on a lot of those flights for people connecting in Europe, and depending on where you're starting, it actually can save a couple hours off the trip, which wouldn't necessarily think of, but then you look at the map and look how they do it, and it's well positioned for what they're trying to do. It'll be interesting to see what their success. I think the 350 will help them with lower costs, operating costs, and a nice product. And then they have to, it's sort of playing the long haul, not quite low cost carrier, but good connecting flow game. And can they connect enough people between A and B? Yeah. Sort of over the top instead of the Emirates model, which is under the bottom there.
Well, I can't say enough nice stuff about their product overall. Not only just that lounge, but kind of on the A350 and their design. I think from a design standpoint, Finland is a design hub.
I grew up on Marimekko. I'm familiar.
So their amenity kits are Marimekko, and for those of you who don't know, I mean it's a Finnish label and it's a very distinctive style, excellent style.
Yeah.
They've also done some great stuff with food and beverage, where the food is all locally sourced, kind of in the places where they're having their hubs. They have menus where they're coming up with locally sourced menus.
Cool. Smoked reindeer on board?
I didn't see any.
Bummer.
But really nice. Like they've taken time to try to make something distinctive and interesting. Not just chicken or fish, but really using good flavors. And so
nice. All right. I think we got into it a little bit there, talking about the line with Bangkok Helsinki. Now you did that one way in coach and one way in business class. Is that right?
That's right.
Which one was better?
Well, I have to tell you, business was better.
Really?
Yeah. But coach was wonderful. I fly economy quite a bit, and I think in some ways, I know a lot of your listeners may be the types of people that would redeem points for kind of aspirational awards, the business or first experiences. But I think that's wonderful. I certainly like to ride in the front. However, as a working writer, I tend to fly a lot, and a lot of times I'm chasing stories that.
And as a working writer, you don't necessarily have much money.
Well, correct. Well, and more than that, part of why I came here was to follow stories I cared about.
Right.
And so a lot of times that means I'm out there doing the research before I even have an assignment.
Right.
So I need to find ways to maximize my points and travel as often as I can. So I'm definitely.
And I'm with you on that. The maximize means more, not better necessarily.
Correct.
Or better is a relative term also.
Yeah. I mean, listen, it's there are definitely moments where flying business at first makes a lot of sense, or even just more fun, and if you can do it, wonderful. But I have to say, I've flown a number of economy, seats out of Asia to Europe and back to the U.S. And Finnair's economy was very pleasurable. It was and the A350 itself is a dream to fly. It really is. Yeah.
That's
no. It's a dream. This is a dream to fly. I've flown 787s, which are also lovely.
This man is good with words. Be careful, folks.
Yeah.
Watch out.
Yeah.
Awesome. Destination Thailand. We're here. This is my second time here this year, spending a day with you in a random shopping mall.
Mm-hmm.
So.
Well, this isn't random. The shopping mall.
Oh, this is a very specific shopping mall?
Well, it's one of Bangkok's very fancy kind of new shopping malls. And if you haven't been to Bangkok, you might be surprised how many very luxurious
new
shopping
fancy
malls.
shopping malls there are. And
right.
I know I wrote a piece about this back in February when I was here, sort of bemoaning / confused by the changing of Bangkok from dirty cheap street food to weird high-end shopping malls where we're sitting in this cafe with a smoothie, a home-pressed lemonade, and like hipster chicken wings dipped in blue cheese sauce.
And
coffee served on a natural wood carved trivet of some sort.
Yeah, it's like a trivet that resembles a tree stump, a small stump of some kind. Yeah, it's very legit.
This is not 1990s
no.
dirt cheap backpacker Aussie Bangkok at all.
No. And I remember your last visit too. I think that was when you were really beginning to get your head around some of the changes within the region.
And even our dinner last night was at a very cool, very good, fun place.
Yeah.
But it was like sort of hipster. I mean, it calls itself an American cafe.
Right.
Shawshank.
That would.
Shawshank.
Yeah. No.
You
don't have to crawl through a pipe to get there.
Yeah.
Thankfully, but. This would be the Sheepshank.
I was close.
Sheepshank, right on the river.
Yeah, it was delicious food.
Yeah.
Highly recommend it. But it was, again, like, the beer was from mostly Portland, Oregon.
Yeah.
They had some Michigan microbrews, and some New Zealand microbrews.
Yeah.
So it's interesting to see that evolution happening. And even on the way over here, I stopped and picked up little grilled pork lollipops, as I call them, skewers on the street, which are 10 baht each, which is like, 20 or 30 cents? 40 cents maybe?
It's about 30 cents, yeah.
And then come inside here and you can have a $13 or $15 lunch without batting an eyelash.
Mm-hmm.
So that spread is better. I feel like the high-end stuff is much better represented now. And it's interesting to see that happening. I still haven't fully accepted it. I know it's not mine to accept or reject, but I'm working on it. But it's interesting. I mean, you live up in the north, and have for a couple of years now. Is it similar there?
It is. And, from my perspective, it reflects both the growing economy of Thailand and the growing internationalization of Thai people. So many Thai people now are traveling, and I think that's a story that I find to be very compelling. That in this moment, more people within Asia are traveling within Asia. There's, people from China are coming to Thailand in record numbers. There's a lot of
regional travel.
There's a ton of regional travel, and people sometimes that are traveling for the first time and exploring other countries and going to Europe. And Europe's a very popular destination for Thai people. So, in part because the U.S. makes visa.
Yeah, we're a pain in the ass.
We really are. It's a shame because there are a lot of Thai people that would love to come and visit, but the visa process is too onerous.
Yeah.
So. I think that's a very interesting aspect of what is driving the development. It's money, but it's also kind of a more regional awareness.
Interesting. So, we're also dealing with some interesting cultural challenges this week and this month in Thailand. The king, I can't pronounce his name.
King Bhumibol.
Okay.
Yeah.
Like most Thai words, I actually can't pronounce any of them.
Yeah.
Passed away last week.
Yeah.
I was here a week ago yesterday, I guess. A week ago today. I don't know what day we're on anymore. Recently.
Yes.
2 weeks ago from when the episode will come out. We can do that.
Yeah.
And he was king for 70 years, if I remember correctly,
yeah,
and it just sort of heartbreaking for Thailand and the Thai people. There's generations, plural, that have known nothing other than him as their leader, with much love, and the entire country is in mourning. It's been interesting.
It's a very difficult moment for Thailand and for Thai people. Yesterday I was in a car going out to a conference with my wife outside of Bangkok, and the driver, his English was very limited, as is my Thai, and he wanted to try to share his feeling about the king dying, and he said he asked where I was from, and I said New York, which is where I tell people. It's a little less confusing than when I tell them I'm from Chiang Mai.
Sure.
They don't know how to take that sometimes. But when I said I was from New York, he said, he said, my king is dead. He said, you're from New York, 9/11, same thing. And I took a moment to think about that, and I think that's exactly right. It's a moment of shared sorrow, and a moment where everything's changed.
The country has truly changed entirely. Yeah, it's a really interesting analogy to set up there, but
and it feels that way. I mean, I think for Thai people and my Thai friends that have talked to me about it, and I try to, sometimes I don't want to force them to have that conversation. Yeah, of course, because it's a tough moment. But it really is a moment of reflection and uncertainty here in Thailand.
Interesting. And I know we talked at dinner last night a little bit about that. Obviously, seemingly everyone is wearing black.
Right.
When you see people out and about, even those who aren't mostly have a black ribbon on their sleeve.
Right.
Which, the things are subdued in many ways, but, I'm staying in the, party zone of town, as it were. I got a cheap Airbnb, and it's across the street from my tailor, more importantly, so there you are. And I was surprised as I was walking over to dinner last night that how crowded the streets were, and last night even after dinner, I obviously couldn't share this while we were talking at dinner, but party scene was still going strong all night long, and part of me was like, this can't be right. I thought the whole country was supposed to be in mourning. And we got an explanation about it from your friends who also own a hotel and restaurant. And it's just no live entertainment, is my understanding? Or that's the main...
Yeah, that's part of it. I mean, so I think...
So it's not that the bars are all shut down. It's not that there's no alcohol anywhere, but...
No. The kind of the reality on the ground is like a lot of things in Thai culture, there's a general kind of rubric that you have to find, work out your own details, and that's part of what I love about Thailand. It's more organic in that way, that they kind of set a broad expectation and kind of you figure out how to get there. Okay, so I think the broad rubric that was offered here was no celebrations.
Right.
So weddings have been canceled. Fireworks displays, concerts. You and I were supposed to go to a concert
last night,
right? And so live music isn't. But life goes on.
Yeah.
And so it's I think intended to just kind of slow things down and quiet things down a little.
It's interesting. When I originally heard bars and shows are all canceled and everything, like all those things are shut down, my initial thought was it's going to destroy the economy. And I can understand that they can't. I mean, with tourism is significant, much more significant now than last time they had to deal with this sort of thing, and they could afford to sort of shut down for a little while.
Right.
So there've already been stories in the news, people complaining about it. I know the friends run a guest house hotel, and she was mentioning that some of the guests were talking about, when is where can we go to get music? When's the party going to start again? And disrespectful, but we'll assume. No, I'm not going to give them the benefit of the doubt. I didn't say we could give them the benefit of the doubt that they were ignorant, but I won't do that.
Well, I mean, ignorance isn't a terminal condition, hopefully.
Sure.
You can
be willing to accept the answer. In this case, the couple asking was not willing to, so that's part of the problem.
Yeah.
But, I feel like they said that they normally host a live music night and had to cancel it.
They did, but they did something that was very kind of, it's reflective of who they are as very kind people, but also very Thai, which is, they had a regular music night every Tuesday. And while they couldn't offer live music, what they felt that the musicians not being able to play and make money was going to be very difficult for them. So they decided to host dinners for the musicians so that they wouldn't go hungry, and so people could still come and say, we like your music, and so they could still interact with people. So that's what they've done. That coming from New York, the idea that, first of all, that a holiday would stop music is in itself, I think, maybe difficult for some people to understand, but that the restaurant would actually say, we want to feed you for this month every Tuesday,
come in. We'll still bring in other people to talk to you and have an event. It just won't be a performance.
Right.
It'll be a performance, just not with instruments, perhaps.
Well, I think it's the fellowship that comes from listening to live music and musicians coming out and finding an audience and being appreciated. And
I thought that was a really interesting way to address the situation, and also, you mentioned they weren't going to be making any money. There's still a financial impact to them, but this somewhat mitigates it. And coming up, the creativity of coming up with ways to both be respectful of the bigger picture and solve the more pressing issue.
When we, I don't know if you noticed this, when we were walking through the mall to come to this cafe to do this recording, I don't know if you noticed in the shop windows of every single shop on the walk up here, all of the mannequins have been redressed in black. Or white, which are the traditional mourning colors. White is actually more traditional, but I think black is now. Okay. So, businesses are continuing, and if you're listening to this, while the government has asked for a 1-year mourning period, it's really going to be 30 days of the most restrictive aspect of that mourning. By the time this airs.
Halfway through that,
Yeah.
by the time you listen to it, you know.
Yeah.
Yeah, no, I agree that my initial expectation was that it was going to be strangely, eerily quiet, and with no live music on the street with all the bars, it was quiet, but there was still enough action, horns and people and, you know, catcalls, towards me, not
from you.
Not from this.
Okay.
I feel like the catcalls are usually at the women, and it's the women catcalling the men in Thailand. I still haven't figured that part out. That's a disconnect I struggle with. But, one of them actually grabbed me last night, the physical, and I don't take that very well, so I assume it's not uncommon. But
honestly, I don't go walking around in the same neighborhoods that you do, so I've never had that happen.
A little, Justin.
I know.
Get out more. How's Chiang Mai?
Chiang Mai is wonderful. So, if you've never been to Thailand, Bangkok is obviously the most famous, most international city. But to the north, near Myanmar and Laos, is a city called Chiang Mai, which is, I think many people consider that the cultural heart of Thailand. It's near a region called Isan, which is, it's a kind of a agricultural region. It's very country, but it's where
you grow heroin, right?
Well, more kind of the Golden Triangle area for sure.
Yeah.
But it's green hillsides. It's a beautiful area with great kind of the equivalent of Thai country music.
Okay.
It's a little
poppies. You don't grow heroin, you grow poppies. Sorry.
Yes, it's a process. Another educational bit from this podcast.
Yes. You don't just grow heroin raw.
No. Okay.
Now you know.
But also a very beautiful area, and actually one that you and I have checked out together when Seth and his wife were here.
You know what? That's right. This is the third time this year I've been to Thailand.
Yep.
All right, so math not so good for me.
That's okay.
Actually, no, I'm good at math. It's remembering where I've been that I'm not good at.
Yeah.
Yes, I was here just then too.
Yeah.
I loved it up there. I feel like we didn't get to know Chiang Mai. We were there for a couple days. We went and played with elephants, which there's a bunch of elephant preserves, and in varying levels of the sort of new modern go hang out with the elephants as opposed to the old go ride the elephants.
Right.
And we did the spa day with the elephants, which is humans bathing and scrubbing the elephants, not getting a spa treatment while with elephants. It was a lot of work for how much you pay, quite frankly, but that was an amazing experience.
If you want to scrub an elephant, you got to be willing to pay the price.
Yeah. And that's more than just smelling like elephant when you're done.
No. I had a similar experience while I was living in Laos, it was memorable.
All right.
It was memorable. But yeah, I think, and by the way, Seth makes a good point that there's a range of, if you're interested in doing kind of an elephant excursion or experience, there are a range of operators, and you should do your research because there are ethical issues that should be considered.
A lot of the ride the elephants things basically beat the shit out of them to make them not throw you off because they're not meant for riding.
Yeah. So I mean, like a lot of things, there are no easy answers, and it's important to.
And I'm not going to pretend that the reserve we went to is perfect in any way, but I think it's better than some of the others. And I'll see if I can find a link and remember the name of it and put it in the show notes.
And I can give you some other links too of other places to check out.
But yeah, so we did that for a day, and then it was New Year's, and we went up and saw some waterfalls and hung out, but we had a fancy dinner, and that was our experience in Chiang Mai. I feel like there should have been something else to see and do in town. I don't know.
Here's the thing.
Even just something like more of the art culture that's there, I feel like we sort of skipped over. And
there's
it's a short visit, but
there's a lot. Yeah, I mean, Chiang Mai has. I don't think it has as a city itself. The architecture of Chiang Mai isn't extraordinary. There are some lovely temples there, and if you travel through Southeast Asia, you'll have an opportunity to see many temples.
As many watts as you want.
Well, yeah, and I have a separate Instagram where I have what I call shots of watts, where people can share their favorite Southeast Asian temples. And that's beautiful. But architecturally, Chiang Mai isn't going to be a destination for a lot of people. But it's really more about the food culture, the art culture, and then outside of Chiang Mai, there's lots of opportunities to go hiking or to drive 10 minutes up a mountain in the center of town and you're at a waterfall where you can have a picnic. It's more about a quality of life than exploring landmarks per se.
And because it's got that tourism draw, it actually has got a very well-connected airport.
It does.
A lot of non-stop flights other than just down to Bangkok. A lot of low-cost carrier service and sort of mainline legacy carrier options in and out throughout the region.
There is, and it's not. I think it's a little bit kind of open at this point, but I think Qatar is actually going to start serving Chiang Mai at the end of the year as a little kind of add-on to their Yangon flight.
So it's going to tag that on. Nice.
So that's maybe if you're interested in coming and you've got some points to use, that could be a way to do it. And actually, Yangon, by the way, if you're interested in Southeast Asia, that is a full-on experience as a city. But
so you know that when we left Luang Prabang, that's where we went.
Oh, I forgot that.
When we originally met you, that bringing this episode full circle here.
Yeah.
We went on to Yangon there. That was, we had a really interesting trip in Myanmar.
Yeah, and I think
Burma. Which one do we call it?
You can call it Myanmar. I think that's everybody's moved on to that at this point. To bring it back to Thailand for a moment, Thailand is a wonderful hub to explore Southeast Asia, and having lived here since the end of 2012, beginning of 2013, it has been such a pleasure to explore the region with Thailand as my base. And if you're a traveler, if you love to travel, if you love culture, if you love food, this is about as deep of a well as exists on our world for all of those things.
Certainly the food I will vouch for. And I should be able to vouch for the cultural parts, but I'm not as good at that stuff as I should be.
Well, the nice thing is
Seems like I come in often enough.
This is your third time? Yeah, exactly.
Awesome. Other random topics. We got a few minutes here left. Google Fi, you've been playing with that a little bit.
Okay, so listen, I'm gonna. If you're listening to this podcast, I'm gonna tell you something, and I ask you to keep it to yourself. Don't out me in any way. But I am using Google's Project Fi SIM card on my iPhone.
You're probably not the only one with that secret.
Yes, I know. Please.
But we should keep it quiet?
Keep it quiet.
Okay,
if you want to blow up my spot, I'm completely at your mercy.
You think we'll get the Google local rep come track you down in Chiang Mai and whoop your ass or something?
I don't want to even consider that.
Okay.
However, I was back in the U.S. over the summer, and when I left the U.S., I had my mobile phone number ported over to Google Voice.
Right.
And it was just kind of sitting there, and I would have it forward to other things. When you're an expat, you kind of have little strategies that you do to kind of keep connected to back home. So,
sure.
I'd heard about the Project Fi, and for those of you who are not aware of what Google's Project Fi is, it's a kind of a flat fee voice and data, and it's designed to be
with global roaming, though.
Well, that's yes. So it has. I think that is one of its distinctive kind of value propositions.
Right.
It lets you roam and pay the same cost of data wherever you are in the world. I think currently about 135 countries.
Okay.
And that's usually about $10 US per gigabyte.
Right.
So very competitive. And the reason I decided to do it was, normally when I travel and I travel extensively, I'm buying prepaid SIMs at the airport when I arrive,
sure.
and loading it up and doing a week of data. Yeah. And that's a great thing to do. And if you're not doing that, you should be doing that.
And we had Jonathan Koo on a couple months-ish ago now, and he talked about his love for local SIM cards and a wiki that he uses to find the right ones and things like that.
Well, and you can see I'm showing
in the back of your phone, you've got like 6 in there.
Right, and my tool kind of duct taped into the back of my case. And so that's what I used to do, and that's a fantastic strategy for saving money, but also to unlock travel. When you have smartphone access, lots of things become open to you as a traveler.
Sure.
It's a great tool to have. But I've been traveling so much that it can be a little exhausting too when you've taken a flight and you just want to get to where you're going and you have to queue up for an hour to get a SIM, because everybody's understanding that this is.
Yeah, the other 150 people coming off that plane with you also all need SIM cards.
Absolutely.
And I mean, for me, I've been, say, single SIM card, my home SIM, pretty much my entire international travel life, the last whatever, and I've been somewhat vehement against getting a local SIM card, and a big part of it was not wanting to spend the even 15, 20 minutes, much less an hour, figuring it out and getting set up if I could get decent enough coverage on my home rate. And for a while I had a Verizon plan that was sort of truly global unlimited. They finally killed that. I'm on T-Mobile now, which is good, but it's 2G speeds in Thailand right now, and it's okay for, posting stuff to Twitter and sending some messages and some, SMS a photo here and there, but it's certainly not a good full browsing experience. So, and I know that obviously getting the 4G speeds of the Google Fi, does open up a lot more options like that.
It does. And so I've been using that now for a couple of months, and it's worked everywhere. I've had good coverage everywhere, good speeds. It's more expensive than if I had purchased prepaid SIMs.
Yeah.
So there's that.
Okay.
However, for convenience, it really can't be beat, and I hope that they roll it out in a supported way to iPhones.
Yeah, I think you were saying there have been reports of, obviously, you have to put it in a Android device to activate it, but then in theory you can pull the SIM card out once activated and move it over.
That is correct. And you have to do a little bit of setup to set kind of the APN information, kind of the back end stuff that normally
on your device.
Right.
It doesn't auto fill that in, but you said there have been some reports of people using it on non-supported devices finding their accounts non-supported.
I have read that, yes, which is, again, I am at your mercy, please.
So please, dear listeners, if any of you work for Google and the Project Fi group, oops.
Yeah.
Sorry.
Anyway, that's the type of information that I wanted to share, so I'm willing to take
that risk.
Yeah. But if you are a U.S. person, and I think currently it's only available in the U.S., but if you have an Android device that you can use to activate it, it's definitely a very interesting way to go. And it's I think it's $20 a month for the voice component of it, and then you buy kind of 1 gigabyte of data you buy in those blocks, and if you don't use the full amount, it gets refunded. Okay. So it's really just kind of pay for what you
truly
need.
Play as you use.
Yeah.
Reasonably priced.
Yeah.
And I've had reports from others of pretty good roaming experience as well. So but I trust you more than so much as you're sitting right across the table from me.
Yeah, here I am, and so I can tell you in the 2 months since I've bought it, I've tried it in Japan, obviously the U.S., Japan, Thailand, Cambodia, France,
Finland,
England, Finland, Russia, and I'm about to go to.
You're in Cambodia. You said Cambodia already.
I said Cambodia. I'm going to Bali tomorrow.
Okay.
And Timor after that, and so.
A good range of countries covered.
Yeah.
Awesome. Anything else you want to chat about with any of our listeners? Anything they should know?
Well, I would, if you haven't come to Thailand or Southeast Asia, I'd really just like to encourage you to try it. There's something here for everybody, and I think as Seth said, there's a full range. You can have a 40-cent piece of street food that is just as satisfying as a $400 meal, and you can have both.
Sure.
Here. And it's a great way to explore the region.
I do love your statement, there's something for everybody. I've told you several times, Bangkok is not my favorite place to visit. I'm truly used as a hub to get other places. Yeah. And I don't know, maybe I'm turning and softening a little bit to it on this my third trip this year and fifth or sixth overall. But yesterday cruising on the river, which is one of the things I love to do just in general to relax with. Like it was sort of peaceful and nice. There's still like the crazy chaos of the streets, and you guys were stuck in traffic forever trying to get to dinner and things like that. Yeah. There are aspects of it that are all the awful things about being in a big city.
Right.
But there are aspects of it that are all the good things about big cities also. And some of that, the palace it is beautiful. I did it the one time, and that's all I need to ever go. But it was, and by the way, it's always open. When the people approach you and say it's not open today, just walk past them. But it's an interesting city, and I think it's a good jumping off point, but more than it is a good place to be, but it's not a horrible place to be either. I'm going to soften my tone on that.
We're going to get you to come back, because not only is it not a horrible, which is, kind of I don't know, that's a little backhanded, my friend. This is a wonderful city.
For me, that's a pretty good compliment.
This is one of the world's great cities, full stop. And if you love cities, if you love good food, if you love culture, you need to come here. You need to see it and have the experience. And like a lot of cities, like New York, where we're both.
I'm used to it, so I think that's the problem.
That's the thing. I think lots of cities require a little bit of experience or skill or knowledge to know how to operate within them. It's not just plug and play. You really kind of need to be connected. But once you're in, it's a pleasure. As New York, you've got.
No, you're right. New York, it only works once I figured out that I have a little neighborhood and that it doesn't have to be a city of 8 million people. It can be my city, quote unquote, of 50,000 people.
Well, and learning how to operate your neighborhood lets you replicate that as you move out into other neighborhoods in New York. And it's the same in Thailand. I think once you get the basics, you start to figure out how that extends outward. And I often think I travel so much that I tend to think of cities as friends, each with their own character and personality. And as a friend, Bangkok is filled with surprises, good humor, good food, sometimes it's a little rough.
Yep.
But truly a heart of gold, and you should stop here and explore it, and also use it to explore other brilliant cities that are kind of within easy reach.
Sure. All right. I'll call that a wrap. Justin, tell some folks where they can find you online.
Well, you can find me. Let's start with the visuals. So I've had a website for years called Veritrope, Veritrope, and that's for a lot of my nerdy projects. But that also is the screen name for my Twitter and for my Instagram. And so you can. I think that's probably the easiest thing if you want to see some of the places I'm traveling. Follow me on Instagram in particular at Veritrope.
Justin also has a couple other travel-related Instagram projects. One is the Traveler Tech account, which ties in nicely with the Transportals hashtag, featuring images combining transportation and portals, mostly out the window of various modes of conveyance.
And you can follow the Dots, Lines, and Destinations podcast at DotsLines on Twitter. We're at moredotsmorelines.com. We're on iTunes and Google Play. Leave us a review. Leave us some feedback. Let us know what you think. Thanks for listening. Have a great trip.